I'm the eighth child born to the marriage of Willie Gray Olds and Ida Mae Wilkes Olds. As being the eighth or the ninth child, I actually became the youngest child by default. My youngest brother, Marvin Ray Olds, uh, transitioned before his first birthday, and that became my first knowledge, first-hand knowledge of the term infant mortality, although it was many, many years later before I ever heard of infant mortality or realized that infant mortality was prevalent in my family, not only with my immediate brother, but all my aunts had at least one child that died as an infant. That I attribute also to poverty. The era of my youth was apartheid America, the segregated South. My locus was Eastern North Carolina, the home of the tobacco belt. Tobacco was the economic engine of the region, and so it demanded work almost constantly. We were sharecroppers, and that was just one step up from slavery. That was the next transitional phase for blacks living in the rural South. During my last 3 years or so of elementary school, we had no television. And for several years, sometimes I could not participate in my classmates' conversation about what they had viewed on television the night before. And so that was my first-hand experience of poverty isolating me within my own race. Of course, I knew about segregation and the separation of races, but then I realized that poverty was even driving a wedge in my youth. So I had to come up with some answers. Um, I allowed then the lack of a television to become an incentive for me to do my chores around the house that pleased my parents, or whatever work was required on the farm, depending on what season of the year it was. Uh, and then get out my homework assignments as swiftly as possible. And this made me become a problem solver. Well, how did that tie in with uh, what was going on with isolation? Well, that allowed me to walk 2 miles to the Gorhams, and William Thomas Gorham was my friend, and I would finish up what I had to do around my house and then take off and do the 2 mile jaunt, whether it was power walking or running. And at that time, as a youth, that none of those terms existed, and to me, and it was just a quick track up to my friend's house. So that 2 mile journey allowed me to have some time to watch television. Of course, if William hadn't completed his chores, I would lend my strength and my ability to help him get his chores done so that we could watch television together. And then I would have to, after we conclude, get on the handlebars of his bike, and he would pedal feverishly to get me back home. And of course, he then would have to turn around and ride off into the dark for his 2 mile bike ride back. But what I learned was this was two young boys sharing resources, building a bond of friendship beyond poverty. You may be asking yourself, what relationship does that story have to do with the subject at hand? Well, my most candid response is everything. The story from my childhood illustrates the demands of poverty, the sacrifices of poverty, and the improvisations that poverty imposes upon children. Why the walk? Why the handlebar rides? Poverty. It never occurred to me that I would spend all my life without ever owning a bicycle, and that came from early years. You uh, do not always have what others have, and what others take for granted, and so you spend a lot of time as a child and growing up as a young man, a young adult, realizing that poverty places restrictions upon your life. And early on, you have to make choices. And sometimes those choices are about survival rather than entertainment. And so, uh, having never owned a bike led me to make other choices. And sometimes they were unfortunate choices because you have survival at the forefront, or wanting to have the same things that others have. So it can be an incentive, positive and negative. So uh, I'm here to share with you the Census Wealth Empowerment Act, an undeniable step to crush and eliminate poverty in America. I'm your host, Mark Carvin Oles, the host of Solutions with Mark Carvin Oles. Early life hardships taught me to share resources, bond with others, and create answers to resolve obstructions. You never give in because there's an obstruction. You find a way to move forward and resolve it. And from this presentation, you will receive a solution to many issues, problems, and societal concerns. The common denominator that we're experiencing and that we will deal with is poverty. The Census Wealth Empowerment Act, CWEA or CWEA Act, delivers a solution to provide each U.S. citizen an opportunity to build generational wealth. The CWEA introduction video provides a wonderful overview. Let's view it together.
Take a stand against poverty. We could make the elimination of poverty in the United States a reality with the passage of a new federal bill that would financially empower all citizens. It's called the CWEA, the Census Wealth Empowerment Act, and it will reduce to a minimum current spending on the criminal justice system and anti-poverty programs. Take a stand against poverty. We could make the elimination of poverty in the United States a reality with the passage of a new federal bill that would financially empower all citizens. It's called the CWEA, the Census Wealth Empowerment Act, and it will reduce to a minimum current spending on the criminal justice system and anti-poverty programs. Read the CWEA.
The CWA is a call to action. It's a call for everyone to get involved, and we can all take an active role. That's what's so empowering about this act. We can all have a place and a role, and we all can be active. We can sign the online petition. You can take the CWA survey. You can write a letter to the editor of your local newspaper. And if you want to help spread the word, you can host a CWEA Zoom conference, and that will allow you to gather your friends who may not be aware of it. And I could certainly welcome an opportunity to be a part of that conference to answer any question, and as well as other CWEA volunteers. So this is a call to action. This is a call for you to get involved, and that you can help make a monumental difference in the redistribution of wealth throughout the United States of America and bring an end to poverty. The Census Wealth Empowerment Act introduction. First of all, the CWE calls for escrowing $2,000 a year for each U.S. citizen over the age of 18, and then direct depositing up to $20,000 to those citizens every 10 years following the cadence of the U.S. Census, with the amount dependent upon the number of years of escrowing. And let me say it this way. Each person is counted in the census, and so every 10 years when the census is compiled by the U.S. Census Bureau, everyone who has been 18 years of age or older during those 10 years will receive $20,000. That is an opportunity to impact a family, impact a person's future in life, and just have people having something to look forward to, no matter what their state, no matter what their current status. If they stay in line, live a healthy life without any other stipulation, you can begin to plan a future based on the CWEA Act. The Census Wealth Empowerment Act is the basis of the foundation for a movement across the United States to eliminate poverty. The mission of the act is to minimize the number of citizens on the poverty rolls and provide tangible hope and support to every child born in the U.S. And the CWE movement can only be as effective as the people who know what it is. So we have the obligation to share it with everyone, and it's an attack against what's crippling so many people in America, and that is poverty. And so the mission of the act is to bring the number of citizens into the knowledge, the common knowledge of what can happen when we come together, pooling our resources, pooling our power as the citizens of the U.S. We can see each child then having a hope and a future in this great nation. In support of the CWEA Act, we must make every member of the U.S. House of Representatives and every member of the U.S. Senate has a copy of this document. And you can begin by going to the website, and you can download the document and then forward it on to your House of Representative member and to both of your U.S. senators. Your U.S. representative and your U.S. senators must be requested by you to introduce, sponsor, or co-sponsor into federal law the Census Wealth Empowerment Act. And you can do this because we can vote for those individuals who will support the CWEA Act. It's simple. This is an act that can transition all U.S. citizens into having an opportunity to live a quality state of life. And it begins with you letting your representatives and your U.S. representatives and your U.S. senators know that unless they support your act, you're not going to support them. It's not a time now for negotiation after the election. This is the time to begin letting people know about the Census Wealth Empowerment Act before the next set of elections come around. Third, share the information with your acquaintances, your family members, and friends and neighbors. Begin to have the dialogue and the conversations about supporting the CWEA Act. And finally, encourage their involvement in the activation of the redistribution of wealth and the financial empowerment of each U.S. citizen. It's no longer just a table conversation. We actually have something now that we can work as bringing about a solution to ending poverty in the United States. For once, it's now feasible. It's not only just sensible, but it's doable. The elimination of poverty in the United States of America. We now have a practical strategy. The Census Wealth Empowerment Act, the CWEA Act, takes an undeniable stand against poverty. The narrative changes from a figurative American dream to an America that provides the economic tools to construct a ladder to success. The Census Wealth Empowerment Act concept is a powerful one. Let us not deny any U.S. citizen the opportunity to directly be a part of a national societal paradigm shift toward economic justice. Together, we the people have the power to bring this initiative to full fruition. Let's not sit back. We now have a solution. We can no longer say that there was no solution. You may deny you may deny being involved, you may refute it, you may refuse it, but you'll never be able to say that there was not a practical strategy for the elimination of poverty in the United States of America. And it begins with the equitable distribution fund. The Census Wealth Empowerment Act places the premium importance on the economic stimulus of individual citizens who comprise this great nation. The nation can only be as rich as its poorest citizen. Wealth accumulation accrued by the smallest percentage of the population should not be forever hidden from the masses. Wealth should become the mantle that moves across all diversity of humanity. The entire spectrum of the citizenry should not be denied the enjoyment of peace and comfort as a standard of life. The CWEA Act ensures a quality elevation of life for all U.S. citizens. We, the people, the citizens of the United States of America, cannot sit idly by and watch the erosion of the economic gains of the greatest economy the modern world has ever known without all of its citizens having an opportunity to share in the wealth and prosperity that's so displayed. We can't just sit back and wish and hope for it anymore. We have to take the necessary steps. And now we have a strategy, the Census Wealth Empowerment Act strategy. Without hesitancy, every American citizen born from 2031 forward should have $1,000 put in escrow under the CWEA Act. When they reach 18 years of age, a full $2,000 annual benefit shall become accessible at the next national census. Up to $20,000 shall be distributed to each citizen every 10 years in accordance with the national census, with the amount dependent upon the number of years of escrow. The initiative should go into effect in 2030. We have enough time to elect officials who will vote and introduce and sponsor and co-sponsor this legislation. It's not enough for them now to come and ask us for our vote. We can now tell them what we will vote for, and we're going to vote for the Census Wealth Empowerment Act. It's a radical change. A radical change is an absolute necessity when you have 1% controlling 99% of the wealth. Children who are U.S. citizens have hope for a successful start in life, whether it's for academic aspiration, vocational interest, professional achievement, or the pursuit of entrepreneurial vision. Let's make that radical change through the CWEA Act. The CWEA shall help secure an additional and tangible mechanism for our youth, as well as provide our nation with the next generation of leaders and visionaries. Together, we the people have the power to bring this initiative to full fruition. We can take this undeniable step to crush and end poverty in America. And when we care about one another, we can do this. Go to www.censuswealthempowermentact.org. You can sign the petition. You can take the CWEA survey. Our contact information is available. And I just want to reiterate that you can sign the online petition, take the CWEA survey, write a letter to the editor of your local newspaper, host a CWEA Zoom conference, become a CWEA volunteer. The information in the complete act is available on the website. Also, not only are there a template that will give you an example of a letter to write to the editor of your newspaper, but also to your U.S. House of Representatives and to your U.S. Senator. So together, let me say this once again, together, we the people have the power to bring this initiative to full fruition. It's been my pleasure to share with you the Census Wealth Empowerment Act information. And thank you for joining me with Solutions with Mark CARVEN. This information is something that we can begin to implement. It's a strategy. So I look forward to hearing from you. The contact information is on your screen, and let's make the CWEA a reality.